In 1519, one of the largest cities on earth fell because its ruler hesitated. Not because he was weak, not because his army was small, but because he believed, just for a moment, that the end of the world might be arriving. Politely, this is the fall of the Aztec Empire, and it's not the story most people think it is. At its peak, the Aztec Empire ruled over more than 5 million people. Some estimates say closer to 10. Their capital, Tenochtitlan, sat on a lake and was bigger than London, Paris, or Madrid at the time. Clean streets, freshwater aqueducts, floating farms that fed an entire city. The Spanish didn't conquer a primitive society. They walked into one of the most advanced urban centers on the planet. So how did an empire like that collapse in less than 2 years? And why does that still matter today? Because this wasn't just a military defeat. It was a systems failure. A perfect storm of belief, biology, and bad timing. Let's rewind. The Aztecs didn't call themselves Aztecs. They were the Mexica. By the early 1500s, they controlled central Mexico through a mix of warfare, alliances, and fear. Conquered cities paid tribute, food, gold, warriors for sacrifice. And sacrifice mattered. Aztec religion wasn't symbolic. It was operational. The sun, they believed, required blood to keep moving. No blood, no sunrise. No sunrise, no world. This belief wasn't fringe. It was state policy. Every year, thousands were sacrificed at the top of massive temples. Brutal by modern standards, but internally logical. To the Aztecs, this was how reality worked. Their entire system, political, military, religious, was built around maintaining cosmic balance, and that system worked. Until something arrived that didn't fit into it. In the spring of 1519, Hernan Cortes landed on the coast of Mexico with about 500 soldiers. Not thousands, not an army. 500 men, a few horses, some cannons. On paper, it wasn't even an invasion. It was a gamble. Cortes shouldn't have survived the first month. The Aztecs could have erased him instantly. But they didn't, because information traveled slowly, and interpretation traveled even slower. Moctezuma II, the Aztec emperor, received reports of pale-skinned men arriving from the east. Men with metal skin, floating houses, thunder weapons. And here's where belief enters the story. There was an old prophecy about a god named Quetzalcoatl, a bearded deity who would one day return from the east. Now, historians debate how seriously Moctezuma took this. But what matters is this. The reports were confusing enough to cause hesitation. And hesitation is expensive. Instead of crushing the Spanish on the coast, Moctezuma sent gifts, gold, fine cloth, a message that said, essentially, welcome. Please don't come closer. Cortes interpreted this the only way a conqueror would, as weakness. Gold especially sent the wrong signal. To the Aztecs, gold was decorative, ritual. To the Spanish, it was the entire point. From that moment on, retreat was never an option. As Cortes marched inland, something unexpected happened. Local tribes joined him, not because they loved the Spanish, but because they hated the Aztecs. The empire was powerful, but it wasn't unified. Many subject cities resented tribute demands and ritual sacrifices. Cortes didn't defeat the Aztecs alone. He leveraged their enemies. By the time he reached Tenochtitlan, he wasn't leading 500 men. He was leading tens of thousands. And still, Moctezuma let him in. Imagine that decision. A foreign force walks into your capital, armed, uninvited, surrounded by people who hate you, and you host them in your palace. This wasn't stupidity. It was worldview. Moctezuma believed power was maintained through order, ritual, and restraint. Violence had rules. War had seasons. Enemies were known. The Spanish didn't follow those rules. Within weeks, Cortes placed Moctezuma under house arrest. The emperor of a vast empire, effectively a prisoner in his own city. The illusion of control collapsed. Then things spiraled. While courts briefly left the city to confront Spanish rivals, his men massacred Aztec nobles during a religious festival. No warning, no restraint. The city exploded. By the time courts returned, Tenochtitlan was in open revolt. Moctezuma tried to calm the crowd. They killed him. Not the Spanish, his own people. Leadership vanished overnight. But even then, the Aztecs might have recovered. And then came the invisible enemy. Smallpox arrived with the Europeans. The Aztecs had no immunity. None. Within months, the disease killed an estimated 40% of the population. Warriors, priests, farmers, children. It killed the new emperor. It killed generals. It killed the people who knew how the system worked. No strategy can survive that. Courts returned with reinforcements and laid siege to the city. He cut off food and water. He destroyed the causeways. He used boats to attack from the lake. Street by street, the city fell. By August 1521, Tenochtitlan was rubble. The empire was gone. Not gradually, not symbolically, but physically. What's ironic is that the Spanish didn't just defeat the Aztecs. They inherited the ruins of a system they didn't fully understand. They relied on Aztec roads, tribute structures, and labor systems to build colonial Mexico. The empire collapsed, but its bones remained. So what actually caused the fall? Not guns alone, not even betrayal by itself. It was a collision between a rigid belief system and an unpredictable world. The Aztecs built a civilization optimized for stability, ritualized violence, predictable enemies, a universe that made sense if you followed the rules. The Spanish represented chaos, unbounded ambition, no shared assumptions. And when disease entered the equation, the outcome became inevitable. This story matters now because empires don't usually fall from a single blow. They fall when their internal logic can't adapt fast enough, when leaders hesitate because the data doesn't fit their worldview, when systems built for one reality face another. The Aztecs weren't weak. They were optimized for a world that no longer existed. And that raises an uncomfortable question. When the next unexpected force arrives, how many modern systems will hesitate, just like Moctezuma did?